Setze Ziel! Bereit zu feuern! Der ist sauber durchgegangen!
Hello everyone, Rudolph here, and you know, I feel I apologize way too much and put way too many channel updates up onto my channel. So if that were to keep happening, I feel it would become nothing but channel updates and I wouldn't have a posting schedule anymore. But I am back now and I am ready to dive into the action with you guys. And what better tank to do that in than the Skoda T50. This is this is the Tier 9 Czechoslovakian medium tank. And it does have an autoloader. But autoloaders in this game, while they are unique, I feel like they're split into different categories. Such as there are autoloaders that can do a vast amount of damage over a very short amount of time. Such as the Waffenträger 100 or the T57 Heavy. I also feel that there are tanks that can do very large amounts of burst damage over a short amount of time, such as the Foch 155, and there are tanks that do a moderate amount of damage over a moderate amount of time, such as the Batchat 25T. So, where does the Skoda T50 fall in line, along with its Tier 10 big brother, the TVP T50/41? Well, they're kind of a jack of all trades, I feel. They're kind of right in the middle. However, they do lack that clip damage total that skyrockets beliefs, such as the Waffenträger or the T57 Heavy. But the burst damage on the guns is absolutely insane. The Skoda T50 has 2,333 damage per minute. And obviously with the 100mm gun this thing is mounting, it does 320 damage a shot. Penetration is 248mm, which, you know, is kind of lackey for Tier 9, especially a medium tank. And even if you choose to fire heat on this tank, it only jumps up to 310. And when you look at tanks like the T54, which have 330mm of heat penetration, this tank seems a little bit weak in that sense. But don't be dragged down by the penetration. There's plenty of good to come. The reload time on the clip of this tank is 21 seconds, which I feel is pretty good for a bursty tank like this, and I'll get to that in a second. The rate of fire rounds per minute is 7.3, which isn't too bad, but again, the DPM is a little bit lackey, so it kind of doesn't really matter. The clip size, obviously, is 3, but here's the kicker. The intra-clip reload is 1.8 seconds between each of the shells, meaning you can unload this clip in a little over 3 seconds flat. The aim time on the shells is 2.1 seconds, so you're only going to be aiming those shells for an extra 0.3 seconds before you fire it if you choose to put all the damage potential out on your clip. Which, if you are in this tank and you are, you know, flanking somebody, or you have the side or rear of a tank and you're right next to them, those two factors don't really matter. And what does matter is that you can do 900 plus damage in less than 3 seconds. The accuracy on this tank is 0.34, which, you know, isn't too bad. It's a little up there with some of the more accurate tanks, actually. Now, this thing does fire APCR as standard, giving it a shell velocity of 1,400 meters a second. That is very impressive. And the ammo capacity is 45. So, it's enough. It's enough ammo to do, you know, 1,400 damage, which I don't think you will need to be doing, but, you know, for those hard carries, you've got the ammo. But I definitely load up some heat rounds, albeit they're not as good as some other heat rounds or premium rounds on other medium tanks alike. But hey, it's more penetration, it's more potential. So anyways, let's move on to the mobility of this tank. This tank's top speed is 50 kilometers an hour. and 20 kilometers an hour backwards. And the horsepower on the engine is 1,000 horsepower. And so this tank only weighs 38 tons, giving it a power to weight ratio of 26.04. That means this tank can reach its top speed in about 3 to 4 seconds flat. The tank traverse is also very good, and this is what separates an agile and maneuverable tank from a super fast tank. A perfect example is, well, let's backtrack to the Tier 6 Czechoslovakian medium tank, the Skoda T50. This is a perfect example of a fast tank, in my opinion, versus a maneuverable tank. A maneuverable tank might not be the fastest, but it's agile, it can get around, it can turn more without losing as much of its speed, and it can turn a lot quicker. The Skoda T25, like I was talking about, it has a high top speed, 60 kilometers an hour. That's 10 kilometers faster than this tank, but it only has a traverse speed of 25, meaning it's very fast, but generally it's only fast in one direction. And that's what I feel separates the very fast tanks from the very maneuverable tanks, is how fast a tank is in one direction. That's a fast tank. How maneuverable a tank is, that's an agile tank, what the Skoda T50 is. It is very fast. 50 kilometers isn't nothing to scoff at, but I like it because of its maneuverability, and I think you should use it because of its maneuverability. Because you couldn't do things like this in the Skoda T25 or the Panzer 5.4 or something. I mean, either way I died, but it's just not doable in tanks that have low traverse speed. It takes much longer to turn, and who knows, you might not even make the turn before you're destroyed. Oh, silly me. I forgot some more gun stats for you. Gun elevation, 20 degrees. Nothing too shabby. Pretty average. Gun depression, 8 degrees, which is good, but unfortunately it's not that infamous medium tank 10 degrees, jumping up to maybe 12. But, you know, 8 degrees is workable. It's good gun depression, and it's enough to do what you need to do. The turret traverse is identical to the whole traverse, 43.8, 44 almost. Now, last but not least, I'm gonna jump into the armor of this tank, albeit it is nothing special. The whole armor is 65 on the front, 40 everywhere else. That is very, very bad for a tier 9 medium tank, or a tier 9 tank in general. The turret armor is 120 on the front, 80 on the sides, and 60 on the rear. Now, don't get me wrong here, 120 and 80 sound very good, but when you look at the front of this tank's turret, yeah, it's round, but it's really flat. It's incredibly flat, so if you shoot basically anywhere besides the gun mallet, you're gonna have a very good chance of going through. Even if this tank is using its 8 degrees of gun depression, 120 is nice, but it's not enough to stand against tier 10 tank destroyers, even some other tier 9 and 10 medium tanks. So I definitely wouldn't rely on the armor of this tank. It's the maneuverability and that bursty gun that makes this tank such a deadly machine. The health is 1650, so it's enough to work with for a tier 9 medium tank. And the weight, as I mentioned before, is 38 tons. View range, 400 meters. That's actually pretty solid, knowing, you know, some other medium tanks might only hit that 390 mark. But some other tanks are jumping a little higher than that, such as I believe the Patton, maybe, well, actually no, not the Russian tanks, what am I talking about? But some of the German tanks may be hitting that 410 marker, 420. The fire chance on this engine, kind of an anonymous statistic, in case any of you care, is only 10%. So as you can see, I don't carry a fire extinguisher on my Skoda T50. I carry 2 repair kits because this thing is literally a moving ammo rack. The ammo rack, I believe, is in the front and some of the sides of the tank. So I get my ammo rack damaged often. And this thing, since it has such poor armor and a lot of its modules are towards the front, it takes a lot of module damage and crew damage in, like, every other shot. So you might as well carry double repair kit or double med kit. Trust me, it'll save you. A fire extinguisher, it can happen, but that's only, well, if you get shot really in the back of the tank. And that doesn't happen too often when you're the one running circles around people, does it? So unfortunately, that first game was a bit of a heartbreaker. We did pretty good, but well, a defeat's a defeat, and no one likes that after game sound. Nor do they like the red screen. So let's get a victory, shall we? And this is what the Skoda T50 is capable of doing. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Did I stutter? No. That was about 3 seconds. And when you start to get your cruise skills up and maybe mount some other equipment on this tank, you can't mount a gun rammer, obviously. But you will definitely get that reload down. But if there's one thing that I didn't like about the Skoda T50, it was the grind. The grind was absolutely horrible for this 100mm gun. I feel like I grinded more XP solely on this tank than the TVP T50-51 is worth. But in all honesty, this is probably one of my favorite medium tanks in the game so far. Period. And look how fast this thing can zip around. 50 kilometers, nothing to scoff at. And the traverse speed, absolutely deadly. I'd prefer a maneuverable tank over a fast tank. Because, well, fast is fast, but maneuverable can get you around the map. And not only around the map, you can run rings around other tanks with ease, especially in this tank. And when it comes to heavy tanks, they don't really stand a chance against you when you're circling them now, do they? Even some of their medium tanks don't. This tank is just so much fun, and on paper, it doesn't look like anything special. But it's once you start playing the tank that it really comes into its own, and you develop your own play style of it. But how do I play the Skoda T50? Wow, Skoda T50. How do I play the Skoda T50? Well, I do take advantage of that very quick reload, as you can see there. 21 seconds, pff, that's nothing. I'll be back on the battle in 21 seconds. So I play the Skoda T50 like a very passive medium support tank. If there's a lot of heavies on my team, I will flank the other heavies on the enemy team and support our heavies in a brawl. However, if it's more of a large map, and wow, that was a big misplay there. It's a larger map, I will take my time, be very passive, scout it out a little bit using my maneuverability, and then just rain death upon the enemy tanks. If there's any light tanks, the Skoda T50 will eat those things alive, as well as artillery. Now, unfortunately, we don't have enough alpha to kill that M40 in one shot, but it looks like he was finished off anyway. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm glad to be back. I hope you guys forgive me for all the months that I was gone, and I will see you maybe this week with some more videos. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys later.